What is good, folks? Welcome to another video from Ultimate Casual Gaming, the home for the casual gamer. I'm just flexing. In today's video, we're going to take a look at Assassin's Creed Origins, the latest in the long line of Assassin's Creed titles from Ubisoft. I'm going to give you my initial impressions of the game after about 75 hours of gameplay, and I'll definitely avoid any spoilers to the story in this video. This isn't a full-fledged review or anything, and I'm not even sure I'll even do one of those for this game. I really just wanted to give my overall thoughts and impressions on this latest entry into the Assassin's Creed franchise because I've been thoroughly enjoying the game and I wanted to share my reasons why with you guys. First, let me start by saying that I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan. I own every one of the previous games, although I must admit I have not finished all of them. Honestly, I didn't even get into Unity after hearing about all the problems that folks were having with it, and I was too burned out to even try Syndicate. How do I own them all then, you may ask? Well, I have an amazing wife who bought them for me for Christmas in the past, so that's how I have them. That said, I was a huge fan of the first two Assassin's Creed games, two a lot more than one, and of Black Flag, probably my favorite in the bunch. So I wasn't even sure that I would buy this Assassin's Creed, even though I was highly intrigued by the ancient Egypt setting of it. Let's be real, these games have always been very cool for their graphics and the settings, and as open worlds go, some of the original Assassin's Creed games were pretty groundbreaking. But even with that, I wanted to wait and see what the initial thoughts and impressions were of the game before I committed to buying it. Now, Ubisoft did a very nice job with some of the videos from the game director talking about additions and changes to the game, along with previewing the DLC, the upcoming DLC and events. I was convinced to try this franchise out after seeing a lot of that. And man, based on these first 75 hours, I must say I'm very happy that I did. This game is really, really good, folks, and certainly worth the $60 that I've spent. In fact, as the title of this video indicates, I've actually fallen in love with this game. Now let me say this, if you are a fan of RPG games with leveling systems, loot to collect, skill trees, and side quests, missions, all mixed in with combat elements, then I think you're going to really love this game. There's so much to do with so many traditional RPG aspects to it, like I mentioned, and yes, it all fits together rather nicely. Seriously, they took all the various elements from the other popular RPGs and well-received RPGs and mixed them together a bit in this game. They borrowed from games like Witcher 3, Far Cry, Horizon Zero Dawn, even Destiny, and it's all done well. So with that said, let me get into some of the more specific reasons why I really am such a big fan of this game. First off, there are many elements of this game that are departures from the previous Assassin's Creed titles, and that's just fine. Sure, there are many familiar elements that most Assassin's Creed fans will recognize, things like synchronization points, for example, but there are so many more differences than things that are similar, honestly, and that's extremely refreshing. Overall, it appears that Ubisoft really tried to keep the things that were great about previous AC titles, like the large open world maps, the stealth aspects of the game, the interesting storyline, and even ship battles like in Black Flag, while changing the things that weren't as beloved, such as the repetitive side quests, all those little various collectibles like the feathers, and some of the, again, repetitive missions. Now, diving into the specifics, we have to begin with this game's awesome graphics. Simply put, the graphics is just amazing. Granted, I've been playing this on the new Xbox One X, but honestly, that really doesn't matter. I started out playing it on the Xbox One S, and I was still really impressed. Now, I know there are some folks criticizing things on the graphics front, particularly on aspects like frame rate, and especially on PC. And I have not played this on PC, so I won't dispute any of that here. What I will tell you is that as a casual gamer that appreciates graphics on the most basic of levels, I was very, very impressed. Look, I know when I like something and when I'm impressed by it. I've always been a person who values the way, good graphics look over things like, say, frame rate. That's just me. So in that regard, solely, this game is extremely impressive. My second point is regarding the sheer size and scale of the map. I mean, this map is absolutely huge. And more importantly, there is so much to do in it. It's a vibrant world they've created with many locations, from colorful lands to deserts to lakes to even parts of the ocean. There are lots of activities in many of these places with lots of random animals and people roaming about. Even the desert landscapes can be exciting due to the potential to run across bandits, soldiers patrolling, animal predators, and even high-ranking bounty hunters. This made me want to explore the game more fully and uncover every nook and cranny of the map. Honestly, most open world games like this make me cringe when they have these huge maps, because a lot of times the maps are not full of anything. It's just big for the sake of being big. But this one was the opposite. I really think they've learned a ton from games like Horizon Zero Dawn, which was really one of my favorite games, and I thought did a really nice job with their open world, where they made mundane things like the map exploration feel really fun. My third point is on the progression system. They have added a number of solid RPG elements to the game, as I mentioned earlier, and it is a very welcome addition. I know I appreciate having something to work towards besides just the end of the game, and they have delivered on that in a big way. I mean, you're leveling up almost everything on your character, from your weapons to your armor. I mean, it's a welcome addition, as I said, as it gives you a small sense of satisfaction that you normally associate with loot-based games. There's a good variety of weapons to choose from, and you can acquire things like new horses and outfits as well. The weapons all have different finishing moves and ways to best utilize them, and it gives you a lot of motivation to try out all of them and attempt to master them. Which brings me to the next thing that I'm really loving in the game, and that's the combat system. Now let me say up front, it isn't perfect, and it definitely has some ways it can be improved. But man, I really like this system a lot better than the old Assassin's Creed combat systems. It definitely requires more skill when addressing higher level enemies particularly, and the perks that you get in your skill tree that you can add to your character really make the combat, while simple to execute, it does have some learning curve in order to master it. And I will say that, for example, locking onto an enemy is a mechanic they've added that was familiar from other Assassin's Creed games, but it's not quite as polished here, and the combat when dealing with multiple enemies becomes very chaotic and sometimes tough to manage. That said, the battles are challenging when you do go up against high level enemies or boss types, which definitely makes it more fun, and like I said, challenging at the same time. Finally, the leveling system is very straightforward and uses a simple experience points kind of format. I mean, the strength of your weapons and your armor simply matter when you're dealing damage or taking damage, nothing else to it. You get experience from everything in the game, including little random things like freeing prisoners when you're trying to loot an enemy stronghold or saving some villagers from a random alligator attack. It all counts, and it incentivizes you to stop and take part in these things in this open world. Additionally, the skill tree is also something cool to continue to grind for in the game. There are 3 branches now that you can mix and match skills from along the way, and it does take a while for you to master each one of the branches. But that's okay with me. I mean, I like having something, as I mentioned, to continue to grind for and to collect experience for, because you do gain a skill point every time you level up your character. Now, even when you reach the max level of 40, you can continue to earn XP, and as you max out the bar for XP, if it would have become 41, you still get credit for that, and you get a skill point. So again, very cool, very straightforward. I like the simplicity of it. So that's my brief summary of why I'm loving this new Assassin's Creed game from Ubisoft. As I said earlier, this isn't a full-on game review, so I'm not going to get into all the negatives of the game, although I did mention a few as I was talking. And I hate trying to look for things to be critical about just to say I did like a balanced review of the game. Hence why I'm not calling this a review or even attempting to try to do a balanced review. I'm not saying the game is perfect, because it isn't, but I'm enjoying it a ton, and that's what I choose to focus on, and I wanted to talk to you guys about. I would say this: if you like the past Assassin's Creed titles and I think this may be a pleasant surprise for you. If you aren't a fan of the franchise, I still recommend you give this a look, especially if you like loot-based action-style RPG games. So that's it. As always, I hope you found the content of the video helpful, and certainly appreciate you watching. If you did find the video informative, please remember to rate the video, comment on it, share it. All of it's helpful to the channel and its growth. Of course, if you're new here, we do lots of videos like this on various game titles, so if you like what you see and this is what you were looking for, I encourage you to subscribe and join our growing family. That's all for now. A sincere thanks to all you gamers out there, both casual and hardcore. Let's go and get our game on.